In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. I want to talk to you today about, I'm assuming most of you are leaving soon, but this is the last day for quite a number of you, although it might be the first day for some of you. I want to talk about objections to Medjugorje, the kind of things that you will hear certainly when you go home, and the kind of things you might have maybe even asked yourself. And I made a list. One of the objections people come up with is, they say, you cannot go to an unapproved apparition site. Have you heard that one? Okay. Now, well, is this true? Look at Lourdes. Lourdes took 4 years to be approved. In those 4 years, if people had waited for approval before going there, the first few miracles would not have taken place. The little child who was dying, that the mother plunged into the stream, into the spring, and also the stonemason who had gone blind, who bathed his eyes in the water and recovered his sight. He would not have been healed if people had waited for approval. Fatima took 13 years. If people had waited, the 100,000 would not have seen the miracle of the sun. But more than that, when Lourdes and Fatima were approved, the bishops there said one of the reasons they gave for approval was the fact that people were coming to Lourdes and Fatima before it was approved. Is that clear? One of the reasons for approval was the fact people were coming there before it was approved. So that's a sign that the Church looks for. So to say you can't go to an unapproved place is not true. Then people say things like, oh, the apparitions have gone on too long. Medjugorje is now 37 years old. Well, the parish is a few hundred years old, but the phenomena of Medjugorje is 37 years. In France, Laus, L-A-U-S, the apparitions continued for 54 years, every day, daily apparitions for 54 years. Fatima, we now know that Sister Lucia kept seeing Our Lady for 88 years. So how long is too long? Okay. Then they might say, oh, the approval for Medjugorje is too slow in coming. Too slow. Okay, how slow is too slow? Champion in Wisconsin took 151 years before it was approved. Laus in France took 344 years before it was approved. I worked out the average time period it takes for approval from Rome is 64.8 years. Okay? So Medjugorje still has another 27.8 years to go before we're average. Okay. Then they say things like, oh, there's a danger in going to Medjugorje. Now, actually this is true. Archbishop Leonard, the Archbishop Emeritus of Brussels, said there are two dangers in Medjugorje. One is the danger that it is false. If it is false, he said, we are being deceived into praying the Rosary from the heart, going to Mass every day, confessing once a month, fasting Wednesdays and Fridays, and reading the Bible. Happy deception. I wish the whole world was deceived this way. Okay. But he says the other danger, which is greater, is what if Medjugorje is true? Because then what is our response to it? Okay? So that's a greater danger if Medjugorje is true. Then, another objection, people say, oh, well, the visionaries, you know, if I were a visionary, I would have joined the monastery and become a nun or a monk or something by now. But the visionaries seem to live ordinary lives. This is not very edifying. Okay. This, I call this Vozu syndrome, named after Sister Saint Bernadette's novice mistress, because she said, why would Our Lady appear to a peasant girl? She should have picked an educated, fantastic nun like me. Okay, well, she didn't say like me, but she meant herself anyway. Now, with that sort of thing, you have to, if you think that, if you genuinely believe that, then you have to ask yourself, why haven't you become a nun already, or a monk? Why have you been waiting? But the other thing is, visionaries are not necessarily saints. Not everyone is a Saint Bernadette. You know, everyone thinks the typical visionary is a young, prepubescent girl, And then after the apparition, she joins a convent and dies of, hopefully, tuberculosis before the age of 33. This is our ideal visionary. According to Father René Laurentin in his Encyclopedia of Marian Apparitions, the typical visionary is male, married, in his 50s, with no TB, and never joins, doesn't become a nun or a monk. Okay, this is a typical visionary. Okay. More than that, think about La Salette. The apparitions are approved, genuine apparitions. The two visionaries there, what happened to them? They were hounded, they were treated like celebrities, they both went a bit haywire. The girl, Melanie, joined 4 different orders. She died outside all of them dispensed from her vows. The boy, Maxima, kicked out of high school, failed as a soldier, tried to become a doctor, kicked out of medical school. Then he lent his name to a guy who made liquor. He called it visionary liquor, and they put his face on it, on the label, and he was cheated, swindled out of lots of money. And then he died alcoholic, penniless, in a ditch. But he's a real visionary. Okay, so don't confuse that. Don't think being a visionary makes you a saint. And this is another reason why we should leave visionaries alone. Okay, otherwise you'll drive them to the ditch. Okay. Then, people say Our Lady doesn't make appointments to come and visit people. Is this true? Look at how she behaves. In Guadalupe, she says, come back tomorrow, same time, same place. And Juan Diego says, good night, Our Lady, and have a good sleep. Okay? And then he comes back the next day. Lourdes, she says, would you do me the great grace of coming here for 15 days? Fatima, come here for 6 months on the 13th of the month. So from this we see the Mother of God is perfectly capable of making appointments and keeping her own diary. Finally, people say, oh, the messages are the same, repetitive, therefore it can't be real. This is very easy to answer. All the mothers here, how many times do you tell your kids to come down to dinner? How many times do you tell them to clean up their toys or clean up their rooms? Just once? Because obviously if you repeat yourself, you must be fake. Right? Okay, look, if you repeat yourself, it means your kids are bad children, right? If Our Lady has to repeat herself, it means we are bad children. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.